This is an old block that I have that I've already made and I've already printed many years ago, and I'm going to print it again. But before I do, I'm going to brush off with a dry brush. Some nice little firm bristles to get any sort of little dust or linoleum cut bits. We want to remove those from the block before printing, so brush it thoroughly. I'll get those little bits out of here. When you're cutting a lino block, those bits, that will become evident. You'll see what I'm talking about, those little bits. So brush them away first, and they don't get mixed up in your ink. Here's my roller, here's my prepared ink. I'm just going to do one proof of this. So take the roller, this is just the printing video clip, and you can put out a band of ink, then roll through it, or you can dip and dab slightly. We want a small amount, thin, even layers. That's a little too much. When you have a little too much, I'm going to take some back with this. Roll it out. Still a little too much. I want to use caution. See, there's a lot on the roller. And if you look closely, you can see these little sort of balls of ink. They're little speckles of shiny little, tiny little balls of ink. And we want those to be a certain size. And if you can see it here, that is exactly the size that we want. Let me get my light on it. See those little balls of ink? They're tiny little shiny balls of ink, like little champagne bubbles. All right. And we don't want those to be thick, big champagne bubbles, and we don't want them to not be there. We want those little champagne bubbles tightly packed on the roller. And when in doubt, use less ink than you think you need. Okay, this is a 1.5 inch roller. Like many of the students in the COVID era got a little studio kit from the department, and this is the roller that came with there. There are other types of rollers that are a little bit larger. If you happen to have one, like this is a 4-inch roller, that might be useful in a different manner, might be better in a different manner. So big rollers, small rollers, the width, the diameter can all be used different ways. All right, so this small length, I'm going to try to bridge across those spots. I want to hit the image area. And here I'm just braying across in a random pattern. If you have a square block or a rectangular block, you would go in a predictable, repeatable pattern, turning the block and exhausting the ink off that roller. But here I'm just going to use a random pattern. The solid black areas are going to need more ink. All right. These cut out areas are going to need less ink. So the cut out areas are already finished. That's one printer's pass, what I just did there. Okay, I charged the roller, and I did a printer's pass on that. Now I'm going to charge the roller again. Now those little champagne bubbles are a little too small this time. I can see on that ink there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pick up a little bit more. It's a small print, so I don't want to get too much ink on there. A little more ink comes out there. So forward, back and up, forward, back and up, forward, back and up, forward, back and up. Then I change directions. Keep this patch small. The patch should only be the width of your roller. And the width of the roller is often the circumference of the roller. This one is not, but the circumference of the roller is about that big. So that's what I mean. The patch of your roller should be just a little bit bigger than the circumference of your roller. So if you're spreading your ink out way big and big, that's just wasting time and ink. So keep your patch contained and nice and small. And what I mean by circumference, watch this. Right there. There to there is the circumference of that roller. There to maybe right there is the circumference of that roller. Could that be it? Yeah, that's the circumference. From there to there, the clear line. So don't go bigger than that for this roller. Or this roller. Notice the circumference. This one is actually a little bit smaller. That's a kind of a fat little circumference, isn't it? All right. Bet this will work here. Smooth it out, bray it out. Get that ink in a thin, even layer. Careful. I'm going to reinforce those dark areas. And this little strip at the bottom is a dark area. I'll be printing this by hand, so I want to make sure there's a nice amount of ink on there. But not too much. If you over ink it, it gets messy and the ink gets down in your details. That's it for inking. It's inked.